The more I try to exert control, the more out of control I become.
So there's ways to help your children eat good food. There's ways to help your children sleep at night. There's ways to do all these things. But we're talking about the layers that's deeper, the one that's like, do you get triggered so that now there's like massive chaos in the house?
We have to control things. Like, we're the leader, the kids have to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Kids listen to their parents. Like, this is an authority thing, you respect my authority. Yes and no.
It's so much easier when you pause and practice your own self-control and get connected to God again, and then you can tell the atmosphere totally shifts.
Why is it hard? Why is parenting hard? Well, it's because there is a spiritual office of parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet nobody taught you that. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hanson home. Today's topic: when does parenting get easier? Well, this is a trending question on forums, and truthfully, it is a question we've asked.
Yeah, many times.
I mean, even like in the middle of the night, when you want to be sleeping in bed and you're awake, helping your kid go back to sleep or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
We've asked that question. Good Lord, when does this get easier? Well, we are going to answer it, and it's not what you think, but we will get to it. First of all, a quick story of our breakthrough and how we learned to stop asking that question.
Yeah, so when we had our first child, it was the middle, well, it was kind of just like the peak of COVID, and Brett had got laid off just right about that time when all the shutdowns started happening, and I was 9 months pregnant, and we had to make the decision to move into my parents' basement, just for that extra support. And um, yeah, just there was a lot of things happening in that time. But all that to say that having our first child and living not in our own home and in a basement, also our little one did not sleep like ever for a year. That was the year we spent 1 year in my parents' house. And it was such a blessing. And I look back on that season and have a lot of thankfulness and gratitude towards that. It was a precious time for our family, but at the same time, it was the most difficult time for us as parents, I believe. And so, yeah, we were like, sleep deprivation was just incredibly hard. And I would ask my mom, I would say, what do I do? Like, does this ever get easier? And she would tell me, yeah, it does get easier. There are things in the natural that get easier, and everyone's situation with kids is totally different and unique. But there was something that we experience now. We have our own home. We have our second child, who's 2 at this point, and we have a 5-year-old. But it's it's different how we look at things, and the way that God has matured us and changed our lens, changed our focus, has made a huge difference. We don't, in that time with our firstborn child in my parents' basement, I was like looking for quick fixes. I was looking for a solution in the natural, and it, you just have to like wrestle through until you get it. You're waiting, you're impatient, and looking only on the natural means, what do I do to get my child to sleep? Like, what do I do to function with no sleep? What do I do to have some sort of feeling of independence while I'm in my parents' home? Um, how many coffees can I make to make me feel better? And and the struggles of breastfeeding and all those things. It was just a super challenging time, and I wanted to fix it, but I wasn't getting the fixes that I was looking for. So it was just miserable, searching for answers and not finding answers. At this point, somewhere in that transition of having multiple kids, we started looking at it differently, and we started asking God what He wanted to show us. And our perspective changed, and the way that answers came about and solutions came about changed.
Yeah.
So we'll get into more of what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. When you ask the question, does it get easier? Well, the answer is yes. But then to break it apart and ask when and how and things like that, it becomes surprising because we at first thought it was like an age,
Mm.
like maybe when the kids are 3, it'll be easier,
Yeah.
or when they're a teenager. I don't know. You keep kind of like moving the goalposts back, and so what we've discovered is that it's actually the wrong question.
Yeah.
So what we want to look at now is the two causes of why is it hard. If you're asking for it to get easier, well, first you have to figure out why is it hard. You got to reverse engineer the situation.
Mm.
So why is it hard? Um, we wrote our notes in a certain order. I'm going to reverse it right now because I feel led by the Spirit. Why is it hard? Why is parenting hard? Well, it's because there is a spiritual office of parenting.
Mm.
And I bet nobody taught you that. We're not taught that when you become a parent, you step into the role of a spiritual office. Uh, the way I would equate this, I guess, is like if you ran for president, you got elected, you became president, and you thought, wow, cool, what an accomplishment. I'm going to go back to work now. And then vacation. And then, try to sleep at night and all this stuff. Meanwhile, the world's blowing up because you became an office holder and you did not show up for the responsibility of the obligation of the office.
Mm.
And many of us are parenting in this fashion.
Yeah, you can't be a parent and do life as norm before parenthood. It does not work. It's
Correct.
not the same anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And even in other nations, uh, you know, um, there are nations where, like, a public office, like a politician, that role is called a ministry. And
Mm.
so a person is like the minister of finances, the minister of security, these sorts of labels, right? So think of yourself as the minister of parenting in your home
Mm-hmm.
because you are the office holder of father, you are the office holder of mother, and there's no one else who can do that job. And if you're out to tea, then the ministry fails,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So you have to show up for the obligation of that office. Recognizing it, I think, already makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Because think of it this way, let's say, go back to the original example. Let's say you became president, but you just go back to work like normal tomorrow. Now you're going back to work with a 60-pound backpack on your back. You think you can just like crawl out of bed with a 60-pound backpack and, get showered and
I sure couldn't.
yeah. And I mean, just think of everything you do throughout the day now involves a 60-pound pack on your back. And so that's parenting without honoring the obligation of the office. You're wearing a pack that you don't even understand. You're not even aware of it.
Mm-hmm. Why is it so hard?
Exactly. Why is this so hard? There is a heavy backpack on your back and you don't even know.
Yeah.
So when you step into the office to fulfill it, to meet the obligations of it through, honoring what God created there, you assume that responsibility of it. Well, now that weight is lifted. I mean, sure, at times it can still feel heavy, but the weight is carried by the one who created the office.
Mm.
Our Father in heaven carries the weight for us. Jesus has already borne the weight on the cross.
Yeah.
And his work is finished. So now we just step into the finished work and meet the obligations as they come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a grace for what you're called to do when you're in alignment with it. So if you have children, unplanned or planned, you're called by God to steward them, you know, and because he cares about those lives, he blessed you with those children, and you're the caregiver, you're the one responsible now. And when you get in agreement with your new role, then you'll be stepping into his grace to cover that, because he has this good plan for you, and you're saying yes to it, and you're recognizing it, you know.
Yeah, God never promises easy, but he promises grace for the season that you're in.
And it always changes, but again, with recognizing the season that you're in and what God has for that season, like there's times for you to be more like inward focus, family focus. There's time for you to step out and be more open and hospitable and like doing, you know, with your family. It's just whatever God has for you. So the whole point of pressing in and recognizing what what God has for you, that I think is a big part of being able to step into that grace.
Yeah, times and seasons is another thing that the church largely misses, but it was a critical component of the nation of Israel. The tribe of Issachar was gifted to recognize the times and seasons of the Lord and to tell the nation what to
To do
do.
with it.
Yeah. So you have to do that in your own. So once you can assume that office, then you can start to shift your focus, because like beforehand, like, oh, why is parenting so hard? Well, it's because of the weight. Let God carry the weight, because even his glory is the Hebrew word weight.
Mm-hmm.
And so so if you let him carry that weight, well, now you can stop controlling things or trying to control things, because
Yeah, behavior modification, right?
yeah, we never actually achieve control. We just try. So it's an effort in futility. But now you can stop doing that, and you can actually look at parenting as discipleship. Parenting is discipleship. Well, you're simply reproducing what you are. You don't want to reproduce people who just try to control their surroundings all the time. You don't want to reproduce people who are stressed out and overwhelmed. That's a bad production facility. What you do want to reproduce is people who can continue to offer it to the Lord and say, yes, Lord, you have appointed me for such a time as this. You have put me in alignment to do this thing. Just as you said, children are a blessing. Scripture says children are a blessing. Well, blessings aren't hard and overwhelming. and so and so if we learn to continuously surrender this thing to him, then he carries the weight of it. We simply walk in the stewardship of it. So now we're free to reframe that question. So the question, when does parenting get easier? Let's reframe it to, what do you want to be easier? And what is hard? We need to find the root. Like, what is easier? That's the surface thing. Like, oh, this is hard. When does it get easier? Let's find the root. Do you want more sleep? Is that what you're actually asking for? Do you want your children to listen to you better? Do you want your children to stop fighting? You want your children to eat your food or eat their food, like finish a plate of food? These are all legitimate questions, legitimate goals. But if those are the sources that you're looking for, then your heart is the thing that needs to be solved, not those issues. You can't just solve the issue of, like, my kid won't eat. Can you like force their taste buds to change? Can you force their body to require more nutrients and give them a hunger appetite? No, you can't. So change you, and that issue won't trigger you any longer. So the answer to when does parenting get easier is whenever you are mature enough to not let your children trigger you any longer.
Yeah, there's layers. So yeah, we're talking about the deep layer. Like, is there stuff that we care about and want to work with our children, and there's practicalities of all these things? Yes. So there's ways to, help your children eat good food. There's ways to help your children sleep at night. There's ways to do all these things. But we're talking about the layers that's deeper, the one that's like, do you get triggered so that now there's like massive chaos in the house? Are you like stressed out beyond belief because like you're just struggling with your kids all the time? Are you in power struggles on a regular basis because kids are asserting their independence, and it's making you all get your feathers ruffled or whatever?
Yeah, that's a good safe way to say that.
So yeah, we're talking about the heart. We always talk about the heart.
Yeah, yeah, we need to drill down to the heart and make sure that the heart is good soil. Because if the heart isn't good soil, you will never bear good fruit in life.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at the heart. How do we make that heart better soil for this sort of situation? Because parenting is hard.
Yeah.
We're not saying it's not hard. We're not saying it's a breeze. We're saying there are ways to give that weight to the Lord and to do it. What's the phrase? Light and easy.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus said about his yoke, right? He said, "Come to me, all who are weary and heavy burdened, for I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, for it is easy. My burden is light." And so, if it's heavy, you need to learn to, yes, shoulder that yoke, but to also put it on him because he is the bigger, stronger beast of burden in this example.
Yeah.
He is the mature one that we learn from in our plowing the yoke. So, keeping it simple today, those two causes, and then we're going to offer two practicals that you can take with you. The first practical is self control. So, we had discussed this with, the obligation of your parenting office. A lot of times we think we have to control things. Like, we're the leader, the kids have to listen.
Mm-hmm.
Kids listen to their parents. Like, this is an authority thing, you respect my authority. Yes and no. While that's truth, you're going about it in the wrong fashion. So we always have to learn how to approach things in the manner of connection
Yeah.
and influence, because connected influence achieves good results for both parties.
Mm-hmm.
If it's only a good result for one party, it's manipulation.
Right.
If it's a good result for both parties, it's influence, positive influence at that.
Mm-hmm.
And so what you're doing right now is you're trying to exert control. Well, in our situation, I've learned the more I try to exert control, the more out of control I become.
Yeah.
And so, what I've learned to do is practice self control. We already brought up fruits of the Spirit. Self control is a fruit of the Spirit as listed by Galatians 5:22 also. Um, but self control will cause you to stop, to take the expectation and pressure off of your child or whoever else you're talking about in this circumstance, and to just look inward and say, okay, stop. What can I control right now? You can stop and control your breath and control your thinking, put it in a positive place, set your affections upon the Lord for just a moment, admit to Him. This is what I've learned to do. Admit to Him, okay, Lord, this is not the hill I want to die on. And every single time I'll get an idea, some sort of inspiration. It's not me stopping and going, oh dear Lord, give me a solution to this problem. It's me stopping and surrendering and saying, I am not in control here, you are. I don't have to fight for this any longer. And boom, the answer comes.
That's so good.
and I'll say something like, "Hey guys, look out there! Like, let's go out on the deck and
Mm-hmm.
look at there's some antelope out there." And immediately the kids will stop throwing a tantrum, run outside. Oh, that's so cool! That's so blah blah blah, and they will completely forget about what they were just throwing a tantrum about.
Yep.
And now we have the freedom to go, hey guys, why don't we put on our shoes and go? Which is exactly what you wanted in the first place. And now they go, yeah,
Yeah. Seriously.
okay. So it's achieving the original intended results in your children by way of surrendering the circumstance to the Father.
Mm-hmm.
And Holy Spirit will deliver an answer from the Father without any effort on your part except for that self-control. Because for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, this is actually a lot of effort
Yeah.
to let go.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. We've experienced that and have grown in that, but it does take it takes effort, it takes time. It's not an overnight change where you're just like getting triggered by chaos and fighting and or stress and time crunches and rushing or whatever it all is. Like those moments are going to happen again and again and again and again, and you might regulate yourself one time and then totally miss it another time, and then it's just practice. But you have to you have to practice. It's okay to have the ups and downs of it all in the middle of that. And we still have our freak out moments.
Swing
But
and miss
yeah,
days, yeah.
yeah. But we're getting a lot better at it, and our kids are benefiting from it. Our home is a lot more peaceful. It's just continually more peaceful, and it's I think a lot of other parents would say every season, like, experienced parents of older kids, they'd say every season has its hard. It's just a different hard all the time. So I don't think you ever get out of, like, when is it going to get easier? You might thrive with a certain age, and that season just feels easier just because you really jive with that age. But
Yeah.
every season of kids growing and you maturing, and every season of life has its challenges, the pros and cons. So learning this skill of um, regulating yourself, and then helping your children regulate, especially young children, cannot regulate themselves, cannot really bear the fruit of self-control yet. They just learn it by replicating what you do. So that that idea of maybe some children need you to calm yourself down and then give them attention, like a hug and cuddles, or like slow down for a second and spend a moment with them, like that. Our kids really do well with distractions. They're just like,
Look at that thing.
squirrel.
Cool.
Yeah, we're good. Okay, okay, let's get back on track. It's so much easier when you pause and practice your own self-control and get connected to God again, and then you can tell the atmosphere totally shifts from, for us, usually it's that feeling of chaos, that feeling of both kids like wanting attention, desperately crying, you know, worrying about something, fighting. It's usually around lunchtime or bedtime, those moments where in the natural emotions are high, you're hungry, you're tired. Those are the opportune moments for that. But um, I think that's a really good key, just to take a second, even in the middle of kids falling on the ground, crying at your feet, screaming at you. You can still take a minute. You are very much allowed to do that. They don't need your reaction.
Yeah. And you can even communicate that to them as well. I've learned to be much more vulnerable with the kids because at first I felt like the dad has to have the plan. Like
Mm-hmm.
they have to know that I have the plan and I'm in control. And you know what? I've been able to admit to them like, hey, you know what? That was a bad idea. Let's not do that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be like, you have to finish your food, and then they're like, but I don't want to, and I step away for like 3 seconds and like put something in the sink or whatever, and I just feel Holy Spirit say like, "Not the hill you want to die on," and I'm like, "Okay, I confess that's not the hill I want to die on." And I come right back to the table, and the time span was only me walking to the sink to put something like a dirty dish in the
Mm-hmm.
sink, and then walking back to the table, and I'm like, "Okay, I was wrong about that. You don't have to do that." And it's like the atmosphere shifts.
Yeah.
Be vocal, communicate to them how you're processing things because
Mm-hmm.
you are making disciples.
Yeah.
They're not going to become what you teach, they're going to become what you show them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can process with them out loud, they learn to process internally.
Yeah. I have to say, you're really good at that, at communicating and expressing your process and just showing them what, like, I don't know, you live it out loud. They can see it all, and it's very easy for them to want to join in with you because you're really good at communicating. So guys out there, communicate. Be vulnerable, be vocal, um, in a compassionate and gentle manner. Kids love that.
Well, I think it's hard for guys really because we're taught to stuff and not show emotion. Especially the generation before, maybe not millennials, but the generation before, and especially our parents' generation, boomers. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they were taught to never show emotion,
Yeah.
so it's hard, but it's so important because it's such a realistic component of being a human.
Yeah.
So why are we stuffing it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the whole teaching kids to just behave off of what you say, um, they for instance, our oldest is extremely curious and wants to understand things, like even on a relational or emotional level. He wants to understand, like, processes. And so whenever you communicate things to him, it I can see he's like, ah, that makes sense. Even at 5 years old, it helps him do the things that he needs to do. Like, for instance, helping out around the house. Young kids love to do that, to contribute and feel like they have a role and everything. But when he doesn't want to, when we're just like, you know, you can stick those dishes in your drawer and I will do my part sticking all the high things up and we contribute as a family. Everybody is important.
Totally great point. Um, Personalities are all different. You gotta learn to work with your kids and teach them the way that they play a role in the family too. Because just as much as there's an office of father and mother, there's an office of the children as
Yeah.
well. So I mean, they hold an office within the family. There is a function where they fit in, and we talk about like overwhelm and chaos. Like when it hits us, when the warfare within the family hits us, it feels like chaos. Yeah. But sometimes when that comes, like I'll begin to hear the thoughts of like, Dad always gives. Dad never gets any time. Dad never gets his. I'm an introvert. I love to be alone. Like I actually just enjoy being outside alone. Exercising in the outdoors, barefoot, sunshine, like that is my happy place. And I don't often get that, especially in winter. We live in northern Wyoming, and we don't get outside a lot, especially
Mm-hmm.
barefoot a lot or soak up the sun a lot.
Yeah.
And so, especially in the middle of winter, if I'm not sleeping well because the kids have been up, I know that's my vulnerable point. And so the second practicality is restore your rhythms. When you're, in your vulnerable points, if you're not keeping up on your rhythms with God, your health rhythms, your physical health, your spiritual health, and your family health, which is connection and things like that. If you're not keeping up on those vulnerable times are just they're gonna hit 100 times harder.
Mm.
And so you have to restore your rhythms, even if it's at 2 a.m. in the morning when you got to get your workout, or whatever you do to keep you safe and healthy. Um, your family has to have rhythms. Maybe it's a weekend away once a month or whatever. Even if you just get a hotel room in the same town that you're in and play in the pool or something, that's a rhythm. Going on a hike, whatever the situation may be, it's the rhythms of the family, so that it's not daily grind, daily grind, daily grind. Because that way, when the obligation of the office calls, ready to meet it.
Yeah.
You are responsible for meeting the obligation of that office.
Mm.
And so get ready ahead of it.
Yeah.
Don't meet it on an empty tank. Fill up your tank beforehand, even if it's very inconvenient to do it. I can't tell you how many times I haven't been able to fall back asleep at night after the kids wake up, and it's like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or whatever, and I'm out in the garage working out, tired, dizzy, angry. But it's like doing the stuff though releases all that, just doing the movement like that's a way for me to reset and recharge.
Yeah.
And then my quiet time with God comes after it. I'm ready.
Yeah. Yeah, and every season of life with raising kids has its different demands. And so I think your rhythms can ebb and flow with that reality. Um, but still putting investment into it. Like for us, when we started to really make it a habit to wake up quite a bit earlier than our kids in the morning and have that alone time with God and then with each other, that was a shift that really did help us fill our cup to be able to pour out all day long. So the sacrifice for us is less time um, like up at night and no shows really ever.
Yeah.
Um, and and some people might feel like that's filling their cup too. And I'm not going to say that that's the wrong thing to do or anything. I want you to know what the best thing is for you in your season of life. But investment in early bedtimes and early wake times typically for the body are good. It's healthy. It you can be in a good circadian rhythm and feel better physically. On top of that, getting that time with God um, is really like a non-negotiable for us at this point. We need it, and that really helps direct the day.
Absolutely. it's it's your day that God has given to you. So meet with him in the morning to find out what to do about it.
Yeah, if you're more of a night person, then meet with him at night before bed.
Yeah.
Whatever works.
Yeah,
But
true. In the
investment
Hebrew,
in him.
yeah, in the Hebrew tradition, that's technically
Yeah.
at night.
Ooh.
So I gotta give credit where credit's due. The
Let's
night
go.
owls may have something figured out, but I am not one. I'm a
Yeah.
morning bird.
Early bird.
Early bird. There you go. Night owl. Early bird.
We're really clicking. Morning something. Something happens in the morning.
Morning is early though, so there you go. So, anyways, those are the notes I have. Hopefully, this has been a very practical discussion for you. We want this to be very hands-on, very relatable. We're working off of Q&A here for the foreseeable future. So, if you're interested in getting any more questions answered, email us. The email is in the bio. Um, leave us a comment. Let us know, what you've been struggling with that we can pray for. Let us know what breakthroughs you've had. What has been a success factor for you? If you think there's any more that was left out of this conversation, we're open to hear that. We would love feedback. We are one body, so together, we love to be unified with you process. And we're still very much in the process.
Yep.
So we want want to support you on the way. We want to learn from others as well. So we bless you. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Peace.
Amen.
See ya.